in my job, in Michael's job, there's an accountability factor. We have a boss that says, you're doing a good job, here's your paycheck. If you're not doing a good job, either, we could be out on the street. There seems to be a lot of unhappiness with public education, and yet, how do you assess, how do you account for what a teacher does in the classroom? And are teachers, it's a powerful union. I mean, do they allow for accountability to be built into contracts? And you've negotiated with teachers and you deal with them every day. Give me a sense of the accountability question.
Well, that whole concept of accountability is an anathema to unions. You see, from my board experiences, somehow they've gotten away with selling the concept that there's a monolith of excellence among teachers. That's nonsense. They're good and bad teachers like they're good and bad media people. They're good and bad doctors. They're good and bad dentists. So by what serendipity process do teachers escape that evaluative process that says, as Bob indicated, you come in here 8 to 4 or whatever it is, 8 to 3, you get a check bi-weekly. Where is the pride? Where's the pride in the product that evolves out of this experiences, out of this compensation? And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people adopt the negative attitude towards the budget. Westbury's a little different. Westbury is what, about 70% white, Bob? Yes. School systems are roughly 90-odd% minority. Most of the white people, their children are through the system, so they don't feel any commitment, any obligation to it. It's a nuisance thing. But I think that, as I said before, the money, the billions of dollars that were pumped into education in the 60s and the 70s clearly demonstrated that money ain't the only answer. And I think even Bob will acknowledge that.
Agreed.
And one of the things that amazed me, and I don't want to use this as an example, but we need to just for instructive purposes, and that's the problems that Roosevelt School District went through recently and still evolving out of currently. The thing that amazed me about that problem was, and when I saw the conditions at Roosevelt, and I realized that there were teachers, professional people working in this environment, and doing nothing about it. And it made me ask the questions, well, wait a minute, what about your professionalism as a teacher? Forget about the fact that there's no money or the rest of that. True, that is a big problem. But as a professional, it just seems to me that you could not possibly, in good conscience, try to run a classroom without books and without proper supplies, that you should be at the vanguard of making change and pushing for change. But that doesn't happen. And I do a lot of speaking at a lot of different schools on career days and things of that type. And I've seen teachers who their attitude is almost like, well, let me just get through this day, just make it to the end of the season so I can have the summer off. So I agree with you, Doctor, that the teachers need to be accountable, and somehow they have escaped that to a degree. Not all, and I think it's important to point that out. And I certainly don't want to use Roosevelt as an example, only because there's no one here from Roosevelt to defend them. I want to be fair about that.
But I think the discussion would even be enlarged if you would look at the new requirements now set down by the regents and commissioner, that every youngster starting the year 2000 and beyond is going to have to pass 1 of 4 regions, each subsequent year adding another region. Listen to the discussions that are happening in the various schools about the children. All children have to take regions, not some, not those selected out, not the 7, 8, and 9 stay 9s, but all children have to take a region. The argument now is, how do we get them, the 4 and 5 and 6 stay 9 youngsters, able to handle the rigors and find success in the region program? And for me, all children have the ability to learn. Some learn at different rates, but they all are capable of doing so. It's our job to do what we have to do to get them there. And I think the accountability factor, that's what it speaks to. If you have a 9th grade class and they're all taking English, you're expecting every one of those children to pass that Regents examination, or at least have a good shot at passing the Regents. Not to say there's a percentage of them that you know are going to fail. And that's where I think we've lost the expectation, we've lost the desire to pull. We're going to change our programs in elementary school to start preparing children for the Regents.
But what surprises me about that is that parents' expectations. I mean, we have the commissioner, Richard Mills, the Board of Regents coming in and saying, now we're going to go to this new, more rigorous program with Regents requirements, and school districts are saying, well, we have to gear up to that. We have to step up to that. Why aren't parents screaming about that? Why are they just accepting the fact that school districts have to step up to anything? I mean, when your child leaves the house in the morning, I always assumed that you expected them to get the best education possible.
Unfortunately, that has not been the case, and it depends upon the school system your child is attending, and also it depends upon the academic program that you approved for your child to participate in. The parents whose children are involved in Regents, Honors, or AP, they don't have the concern and or the discussion. It's the parents of children. I thought my children were in a Regents program, but to your point, I thought they were being trained at the highest rigors possible, and the answer to that is no. That's why you have general courses versus Regents courses. We're saying now there are no longer any general courses to be had. Every child has to take a Regent.
Right. Now let's talk a little bit about community involvement. Some people view a school board meeting as the Wednesday night fights. Some people don't show up for their children's athletic events. They don't show up for. I remember a budget hearing in Westbury, and there were a handful of people. There were almost literally more people behind the podium, the school board, the superintendent, than there were in the audience. What do you do to get people interested in their kids' schooling?
You just have to keep reaching out. You have to provide opportunities for them. You have to keep inviting them to come into the schools. You have to try and in some cases embarrass them about not showing up for the meet the parent night, the teacher conferences, not seeing their kids perform in concerts or in plays or in athletic events. But that is a problem with parents not participating. But I will not accept that as an excuse, because there are other reasons also why some parents aren't participating. It might have to do with culture, with language. Some people may be working 2 or 3 jobs. So we have to therefore assume the surrogate role of those individuals. But yes, those communities, again, where you look at the communities involved, and I use the statement of wrapping the arms around the children. In those school communities where that's happening, other things are happening as well. So a lot of things have happened to the public schools where people have withdrawn from because they don't have children any longer in the schools. They're disenchanted with the academic performance as they see that the students performing, and they're concerned about the amount of money it's costing them to live in their homes, so why am I going to involve myself with that at all? But then I have 3,200 some odd students. I need to see those parents of those youngsters as well. And with their working with us, then we can do a better job.